Host.
Here we go.
Hello, we are.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. We're live on this beautiful Tuesday morning, and thank you for everyone who has stopped by to join us. I'm that Kimberly.
It's Deb.
And we are live again and starting a new series on this industry live around our point of views, POV, right? And startup conversations where we, Deb, I, a guest, debate, discuss the advice given by a business professional out there that we admire, whoever that might be. So this,
Okay. But
yeah.
today's poor man.
Yes, correct. um, and today's conversation is going to be around a question that was asked to Mr. Gary Vee in his 4Ds, his digital.
What
Ooh,
are the
I
four
should.
Ds?
The 4Ds mean um, digital discovery deep dive. So it's a full day with Gary Vee where you are immersed in digital education for all businesses. They pay him a lot of money and he answers all their questions. So
Mm-hmm. Cool.
the
Cool.
money is well worth it.
If you don't
And
know who Gary Vee is, definitely go for a Google and figure that out because he's a cool dude, man. I like him. So
yeah, this is some of, if you just put in 4Ds with Gary Vee, it'll definitely come up for sure. All kinds of videos around this, him giving advice to business owners and entrepreneurs. So
that's awesome.
we're going to dissect one of those videos today.
Perfect. All
Yeah.
right. Cool. Well, don't forget, again, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube. So make sure that you tell us comment and tell us where you're watching from. If you are not watching this live and you're watching a replay, please share and hashtag replay because we want to share all the things and we would love your feedback and we want to know what you have to say and we want to hear your questions. So
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. And if you had a same situation scenario that happened to you, tell us about it. We want in the comments.
We
Leave it
want
in the
your point of
comments.
view too.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So
The
let's
goal,
get.
yeah, the goal of these weekly lives is to make sure that we are providing valuable information out there for you guys. Sharing is caring. We fully believe that. We don't believe in hiding all the secrets. We believe in sharing that because that's just what you should do in the world. We should share our knowledge and all try to help each other be successful.
Absolutely. So, with that said, we're going to play this 4-minute question clip. This gentleman tees up his question to Gary Vee, gives context, and then Gary Vee gives his advice, business advice, which, mind you, Gary Vee was a two-man company several, like, I don't even know, maybe 12 years ago. Well, one, he built his dad's liquor company up from a $3 million to a $60 million in revenue business, and then went off and started his own agency with social media being one of the foundations. And he started with two people, maybe just two people in someone else's conference room, and now he has over 1,000 employees and several offices. So just FYI. And he also invested in Twitter, Facebook, and a couple other great companies. So just
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura. Okay, so let's start this. Everyone listen. I'm clicking on the wrong button. Hold 1 second. Okay, here we go.
People, and it's around scalability, right? So my business is at about 1.2 million a year, and we're ready to kind of move forward and grow. The challenging thing is the cost of humans has gone up. And so for us, we're kind of playing around with this idea of bringing people up through the company comparatively to, paying the higher cost for more skilled people.
Yeah, I would spend all my energy on building an incubator internally to create people and retain people.
Yeah, that's what we think about a lot. I think the challenging thing around that is for me, is that human to human training, or is it something like a trainual or something?
It's human to human.
Human to human.
You know why? The part you're gonna need is the nuanced emotional intelligence part and like your culture.
That's exactly right. I was just gonna say, how do you scale a feeling, right? Like
you scale it through dictatorship.
Like just being that ambassador of the brand to
James and Joe know what doesn't fly in my world.
Got it.
Which so both of them have spent enough time prior to me knowing there are people that are talented that they would never consider hiring because they know if I sniffed out their behavior, which was completely appropriate in places they used to work, that there's no shot that that person's going to succeed because I'm going to smoke them out if they don't.
Got it. So you start with kind of your Mount Rushmore of people in leadership, put your value into that, and then allow that to kind of trickle down, if you will.
And then what you have to be is never let it be compromised.
Right.
So that's exactly right, comma, as you start to scale, I'll give you an example. Carol is adored by every parent, and people are signing up to your school because of Carol, because she's insane with parents and kids. But Carol makes Ricky and Susan and Sally miserable because she's audacious and braggadocious and snarky to them because they're not Carol. You have to fire Carol.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard that is for most businesses, the scenario I just told you?
I mean, it's a very hard thing, right? Because they bring in a lot of I see your point exactly.
What I do that is highly unusual that I'm trying to teach the business world to do is to not compromise on culture over finance. And that's incredibly foreign because people have to keep the lights on. I promise you right now, for everybody here who has employees, the biggest vulnerability in your entire company is your weakest cultural employee.
Boom.
Check. I love all of that, and I think it's fascinating.
Yes.
Because I am a huge believer in, aside from the fact that he said that the cost of humans is high now, but I've always been a strong believer in bringing up internally.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes sense.
And knowing that, I had to learn the hard way, not sacrifice the culture for finance, over money. It's more important to have a strong culture and a cohesiveness family, or, continually to try to make it the best you can as a family cultured environment where people can grow and thrive rather than toxic, right?
Yes, I don't do toxic. I hate toxic.
But sometimes when you're a startup, you put up with a lot of things that you feel are going to bring in that revenue. So you don't fire, people or let people go because they are mean to your other employees. They cause rifts within your other, within other departments. But it's definitely something I had to learn the hard way, for sure. Like when I heard him say that, I was like, what? I wish I would have done that sooner. But
yeah. And I love, you can have your strongest performer that is bringing in all of the revenue. But at some point that's the person that potentially can break your entire business just because of the toxic behavior that they bring to the business. So 100%. Yeah, what's your long-term goal and what's important to you, I think, as you grow your business?
Yeah. Well, and expressing that to when you hire what we learned the hard way, right? Is that when we expressed how we as a culture, what we expected, what our expectations were, do what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it, was one of our biggest ones. And when we laid out all our dirty laundry to whoever we were going to hire and asked them, can you handle this? Right. And when we put systems into place, project management systems, CRMs, things of that sort, we told our candidates, hey, if we're going to know, one, if you're not doing your job, you know, and if you're not who you say you are, right? Like if you're not going to sell, if you're not going to produce a video, whatever it is, because the numbers are going to, you can't hide the numbers, right? One, but two, if you can't handle if you're not aligned with our culture, we're going to see that as well, you know, because of how we structured things later, not in the beginning, because this was a lesson we had to learn. For example, we had someone within our organization that was one of our very first employees that we gave 101 chances to, right? And when we started noticing things were not changing, we started to document the things that, you know, from being late to not executing to not following the instructions. She was just she felt very entitled because she was closer to Janet and myself, and she would
relying on your relationship.
Yes. And she would leverage that in conversations when we were not around. And so it just started to, we started to hear rumblings and started to have that toxicity within our very, you know, 10 people at the time, you know, and that just doesn't fly well. Right. And so it was something we had to learn the hard way, and firing her was extremely hard because she was one of our first employees. So it was a lesson early on that we learned. And when I started following a lot of Gary Vee's advice later, and one of them was about the firing, you know, quicker and not and ripping that Band-Aid, was something that I wish I could go back and do over again, because then we did figure things out along the way, but it helped our turnover for sure to get rid of toxic people. Some just got rid of them by themselves, but I wish we would have done other things sooner.
Right. Sure. I love what Laura just said, that you may take a hit short term in making the change, but to remove the toxic person is beneficial for the health of the entire team.
Absolutely.
100%. Thank you, Laura.
Because if you don't, like you like Gary said, it's a dictatorship, right? And in a good way, because you're setting the tone and the culture where it's about your people and keeping that cohesiveness, right, and non-toxic environment is what you want, because the cost of turnover is even higher. Right.
And I like how Gary Vee says, don't compromise culture over finance.
100%. Wow. It's very hard, but
it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Yep.
Especially when you have investors and people that you're having to answer to.
Yes, for sure. But we started to use tools that, like professional development, business, like going to a professional development training, and or, you know, I know other businesses that got business coaches. I even know management folks that brought in external, you know, business coaches for their employees to help their executives grow, because that's really what it comes down to, right? Is the growth while you're growing your business. And you either learn that the hard way through a lot of, bad experiences, or you learn as you go through good experiences, or just things that you don't have to repeat over and over again, right? You don't make the same mistake twice.
We have another comment from Mike Cornell. Let's see. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Mr. Cornell. Is it coming up? Let me see if I can put it up. I'll put it up there. There isn't one correct culture, correct? The importance is the correct fit. A bad fit doesn't mean a bad person or employee. You are probably doing them a favor also if they don't fit, but they can thrive elsewhere. Absolutely.
And that brings me to a Gary Vee point where, or just in general, like strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
So important to realize the strengths and weaknesses of your team members, so that
and yourself, right?
Right. Like, I mean, I'm the first one to raise my hand and tell you that I am not your Excel numbers person.
Yeah.
in the company. So don't come to me with that, because you're going to be disappointed. You know, I remember one of the last spreadsheets I created, my client success manager says, "What is this I'm looking at?" And I said it was a Deb sheet and she could do whatever she wanted to do with it. That is not my expertise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's being aware and being okay with saying what it is, right? Like for me, my strength, like Janet, I was blessed to have a co-founder that she was super high level. Like her emotional intelligence was much better than mine when we started, you know. And one of the things that I always appreciated about her was her strict candor, and the fact that we both agreed when we disagreed, we were not going to do that. And we were not going to disagree in front of our company, right? We were going to take it sideline, discuss it, and then come back. But one of the statements she always used to tell me that helped me grow, that, you know, was that before I blew up, I would think in my head, it's not always about me. Because when someone would make a mistake, a client would do something, like if it was an employee or a client, didn't matter. I almost took it as a personal attack on the company first, right? And then me, but the company was me, right? Was us. And so I would hear her in my head before I would speak over time saying, it's not always about you. And so that enabled me to put myself in that person's shoes before I said something I could not take back, or something that would totally, you know, demolish the relationship with the client, right? I held my breath, I took a deep breath, and then I thought through, and then I spoke, right? And it was the first thing I would always think of, was it's not always about me. It's not always.
And you had to learn that. Like that was a skill that you had. For some folks, probably for Janet, that was more of a natural instinct for her. But for you, it was something that you had to like actually work on. It wasn't natural.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that you were doing that and that it wasn't okay. And then you needed to figure out how you were going to correct that.
Yeah, 100%. Because I had never managed people before. I was, you know, I was a salesperson that just was out there and, you know, like had super high energy, and my thoughts would just come out without thinking how they may or may not affect someone else. And so I just had to be more methodical and you know, so that I wouldn't, so that I could have that emotional intelligence to have a conversation with someone else and putting myself in their shoes, and to find out why they're feeling and thinking that way. And that took time, right? It wasn't something that came overnight, but I knew that she was stronger at it than I was. So I leaned on her in those situations, right? To help me get better at managing people, talking to our clients and finding out what they needed and listening to them, all of them, whether it's an employee or a client, right? Because just like Mike said, it might not be the right fit on employee side. Sometimes there's clients that are not right fit for you doing business with them,
It's
right?
the same way on the client side, and you have experience with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, not letting your client dictate your expertise in your talents
and your business model, like not letting them 100% railroad you into doing exactly, you know, they hired you for a reason, right? They hired you because you are the best at what you do. And if you start letting, you know, them seep in a negative way and taking you in a different direction, then that's not good either, right? Like if it's going to help you grow, that's different. But if it's taking you, like people used to always ask, well, you do logos, will you do websites, will you shoot photos? No, we did video, and we did it really, really well, and we show you where to put it and we show you what to do with it, right? Like period. And we didn't deviate, because if we did, it would have cost us a whole lot more money in the end. Right?
Stay in your lane.
Correct. Yes. And get good at what you do well.
Be the expert. Be the expert in what you are excelling in, and what. Yeah, I love that. What about he says create to maintain? What do you think
So,
about that?
so creating your own playbook. Like I felt like he was saying, like, because the gentleman who asked that question about he used the word training, he used a, now I can't think back to what. Well, they do say unlearning is harder, right?
Yep.
Than training, some
right. Training is easy. Like you can train.
Unlearning is harder, right?
Yeah, it's harder to unlearn someone out of their bad behaviors and their bad, just, you know, if they just do bad business. So,
well, it's things that they were taught when they were young. Because if you go back, and I encourage people to, I did put this video link in the YouTube description, and we can put it in the actual comment section on LinkedIn and Facebook. But I encourage people to go watch this, because it does have several other business owners asking him other questions. But he says that, you know, we as humans, when we learn things early on, you know, in elementary and junior high, high school, college, and then when you go off to the real world, it's the next company, the business you come to, that teaches you things, that good or bad, right? He's talking about the bad ones, that he doesn't want those traits being brought into his culture of, you know, harmony and not being toxic and all these other things, right? And so maintaining that, create that world. We used to sit our interview, when we would interview candidates, we'd ask them questions, and like basically lay out all our dirty laundry to make sure it was a fit, right? We would say, this is how Kimberly is, this is how Jan is, like all our expectations, this is how this department works, and this is how this, you know, our comptroller expects this, you know, all of it. And are you going to be okay with that? You know, are you going to be able to handle
that,
the autonomy that we give you? Because if you need a micromanager, we're not a good fit for you.
Right.
We do not micromanage. So if you need someone that's going to micromanage you,
this isn't your spot.
No, like, so being honest in that way, and then you can sniff them out. Like he said, like if they are not who they say they are, it's, you will, as the person, you know, that whether it's the head of the department, the founder, whoever it is, you're going to be able to sniff them out. You know, they're going to show themselves for sure.
Right. I just went through hiring several people. So there were lots of interviews and conversations, but I learned very quickly what things I needed to ask in order to sniff out folks. So like, that was really helpful for me. And I was very honest and transparent on what you're coming into and what the expectations are, because you do have autonomy here. You know, I do expect for you to just, you know, go out there and do your thing. And, you know, you're the expert in your market and you're the face, and like, deal with it. Like, I can't micromanage. I don't like to micromanage, and I don't like to be micromanaged. So, so I think.
But you still have an expectation, right? You guys, you still set a level of, here's what whether it's your quota, here's whatever whether it's in sales, it's in a product, it's in a number of, you know, projects you need to get done, whatever it is. If you set the expectation for them, knowing that there's going to be checks and balances, then, you know, absolutely most people will get that, whether that's the right place for them, right? If it's a higher expectation that they can't meet.
Yep. I know it was a very interesting process for me, especially this time in our world. Like, I mean, we should talk to Laura sometime about this, but just hiring today, like what are we looking for? What is the staffing company? What are they looking for these days? Because I'm sure everything has shifted over the last few years. And culture is huge now, because it is like, you know, like, we've got to create some happy places for folks out there, because like, this world is kind of tough for a lot of folks right now.
She comments, Laura, on Facebook, says, share the good, bad, and the ugly. I interview and I try and I get through get
trying
to
to
the
get
know.
to the know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
And it definitely goes, it definitely goes back to what Mike commented on LinkedIn, saying that it might not be a huge, they might thrive somewhere else, right? And you want that, you want the best for that individual at the end of the day.
Right. Like why, like by holding on to someone that's just not a fit, you're not doing them any favors as well.
Correct. Absolutely.
Because
and it's
they're
hard.
not going to grow. They're not going to be successful because it's not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And I had to, we had to get over the, Gary Vee calls it your ego. And I felt like it was more, I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. I had a hard time. And then it became my ego because of money, right? Like when I realized how much money it was costing us to retrain someone every single time we hired the wrong person, I definitely, in the beginning, it was because we got close to people, you want the best for them. Like, so I had too much of a soft spot, right?
Yeah.
And then it became about money because the cost of turnover is also expensive for a small company. Startups for sure, because and time you can't get back, right? So making sure that they are going to thrive within your organization, and if they don't, being honest about it so they can go thrive somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's huge. It's hard, and it's very hard, right? Like it's something that is not taught to you in school.
No, it is not. It is not.
We get to learn through good old experiences.
Trial and error.
Yeah. And unless we try it several times or just keep trying it, you just keep doing until you find the right ones and keep training the right way. Like when Gary Vee brought up getting them right out of school, you definitely create to maintain there. You're able to create that environment around them that they know what is acceptable and what is not.
Oh, we have another comment from Mike.
Tell us, Mr. Cornell.
Let's see. Pop it up there.
Okay, I will.
To maintain, you need ongoing objective insight into your employees' engagement and satisfaction. Often the perception isn't accurate. It can shift quickly, etc. A once-a-year employee survey doesn't cut it, and having an action plan to address is key. Absolutely.
We didn't have performance reviews in the beginning, and we started implementing them, and we started doing like every 6 months, and we started doing employee feedback too. Like their coworkers got anonymously got to give them feedback. Not to their face, obviously, because that's really hard. That's another topic for a different day, but giving them feedback on the paper that they could read and take from, right? Things that they do really well within their department and things that they could improve on, and getting the feedback from their counterparts.
I love doing, I love the idea of like culture surveys. I think that's really important, but it's also important that if you're going to put out culture surveys, that you actually address the issues within the culture surveys, because, if you're not going to do anything with the information that you're getting back, then it's all pointless. But definitely once a year is not going to cut it.
Correct. And the action plan, and having an action plan for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to, I think you've got to ask these questions early on, or you have to ask them often. Like, I think that it's important for the team to communicate regularly, and definitely
and asking them if it's in a way asking your team. The other thing Gary Vee is big about is that it's all on him. If an employee if something is not happening, it's his fault, right? So having that, what can I do? What can we do as an organization? What can I do as your boss to help you? If you're struggling, what tools can I give you? What resources, what education can I give you if you're struggling, right? Because that is the best way you're taking accountability for them, as as their, I hate to use the word boss, but as their
Leader.
supervisor, yeah, their leader. And second, then you're providing them with resources and you show them that you care. It definitely, when we got to getting performance reviews, doing feedback, peer-to-peer feedback, and then having a plan of how we can take better action and helping them, things definitely got easier and got better. Right.
Yeah.
It makes the world of difference. And I know for us, it was a huge, ADP was a service that we used for our account, like for our pays and bill, and they also had other services for HR. Like a lot of other companies now I know you can outsource your HR and they give you tools to help you ask those questions, to get those surveys, just Google it and you can basically find it. But it's important. It's a part of the business that will make it will make your revenue grow, make your company grow, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to compromise culture over finance, but you still have to, especially if you have investors, especially if you know what I mean, you're a startup, you have to pull in that revenue and report back to people.
Right.
So
I love this. We could continue to talk about this for a full hour, but we're trying to do this at 30 minutes. So we are running out of time.
Yes, we are. But thank you everyone for chiming in. We will definitely be taking another question or another piece of advice that Gary Vee gave on this. It was the title of the video. I'm just going to throw it up real fast so that people can see it. But the title is How to Use TikTok as a Catalyst to Your Side Hustle, the 4Ds with Gary Vee. It's more than he talks more than just TikTok, just so everybody knows. And a lot of advice he does give around, how to grow your content, how to brand, just different things of that sort. But I think there was 6 different businesses that asked him different questions, and they all were some way related and you can find some tool or useful case when each one. So I encourage everyone to go back and watch the whole video. We are going to pull. Thank you, Laura, very much for saying that. We appreciate you. And Mike and everyone else. Yeah, for stopping by. We will be back next Tuesday with another debate discussion point of view. So please, if as you're watching this on the replay, if you had a scenario, we want to hear it and how you solved it, what the solution was for you. Because yes, we believe sharing is caring, and how are we going to know if we don't?
And if you want to join us and you've got something to offer, just reach out to us. You know how to find us. Like Facebook, emails, we're very accessible, but we would love to hear from you.
Yes, you can email me or Deborah, and here's our email addresses: Kimberly at Marketing Doer or Deborah at oneappguarantee.com, because we'd love to have you on. Yeah.
Yep.
So
yay. Thank you again, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye. See you all.